B.F. Skinner ruined gaming for me. Here, let me weave a tale. Oh, first, though, let's not be crass. At some point, you begin to see how we're not so different than most mammals. Our brains like to hit buttons and get rewards. That thought happens at some point in every game I play. I appreciate your all being here, and in the interest of proper reinforcement, here, you get a prize. Oh, look, they have a loop shape. Guess we'll call it a reward. Yeah, that has a better ring to it. Every modern game today has behind it the theories of this man. From intro jingles to thumbnails and almost every game loop you've played in the past few decades. Psychology was strip-mined by big business, and I truly think Skinner would smile at that today. No clue if it's a proud or regretful one, though. If I could dig up his bones, I'd give them to my dogs. Speaking of, if a bell rings and the dog's tongue salivates, what does that really tell you about anything other than association? Old Buford Finderback Skinner would tell you that really tells you nothing at all. I'm not positive that's what the BS stands for, but let's not look at the unknown after all, and instead focus on what is presented to us in behavior alone. It'd be way too easy to theorize and pontificate on any number of internal discussions, or maybe we engage in a little science. Make your choice, and then roll those dice. For today, I thought we'd discuss some of his later work on what he termed gambling behavior. He speaks about blue-haired ladies playing the slot machines in Vegas, but what he's really talking about is variable rate reinforcement. You see, boys and girls, during World War II, he studied a grant and was given the money to either look into mice or pigeons. He chose the latter and would come to discover they soon will eat your entire funding in a matter of weeks, if you let them. Bird brain to the very core. He needed a new way. Rather than a treat per peck, they would get one every other one, or every few. One cool story involves birds that would hit the lever so quickly that their beak would begin to smoke. Gotta respect that dinosaur energy there. Welcome back to my video anthology on Man Needs a Code, with a kind reminder not to let anyone tell you what to like or sub to. Though, if they ring a bell, might not really be us to ups anymore, eh? Back to the slot machines real quick, and those blue-haired ladies. How do they know when to stop pulling the lever? You see, that's the fun part. They don't. Ever. If you win every time, you know what to expect. But the odd kicker there is if you only win sometimes, it's the thrill itself that you're also chasing on a very real level. We're all just trying to survive and thrive in our environment. Skinner would always say this. Remember this before ever investing your own blood and treasure. Everything in life is a bet, a gamble, and a game, because it's all odds in real time with imperfect information. The opposite of this, though, is called avoidance conditioning. This is that whole, if an elephant is small and you tie it to a small stake, that even as an adult, it'll stop it dead in its tracks. Team mammal. Also, our brains are really made up of the same stuff. We're all stardust, after all. Skinner's goal was to create a better world. He wrote something called Walden 2. When you want to be a writer, it tends to seep out onto the page somewhere with some type of truth. Writers write and all that. BF thought that if we could change the world, that it would have to be done through behaviorism, because really, all the world is in totality that we can observe is merely that. The series of a quadrillion upon billions of such interactions throughout time. Children are shaped through culture. As a teacher, he would often be asked about giving candy to children for good grades. He would just laugh and ask, "Do you want to make good grades or not?" It's not not a question of whether it's going to control someone else's behavior, but rather still if they are going to be effective at it, or a little subpar. When questioned about autonomy, he would ask, what does one gain through autonomy? Really, though. That's what really impacts the world. The rest, just words, the cheapest of that lot. The real trouble to all of this is caused by the stick and the stone, if you will. Case in point, you can't always take a murderer's word for why they murder, but it's important that you know that they do. Don't judge me. We're all just reacting to the environment. Ah, yes, that reminds me. If you have a tendency to do something that's harmful to your bottom line, or your health or well-being, then understand that that part also might just be a habit of conditioning. The only way to impose free will is to fight against habit. You can't expand your territory by staying safe. Back to Skinner's example of candy for the kids. The inverse is also true here. Let's say you're in a public place and a kid is screaming for something, a candy, a toy, really on some level, it's attention. Anyway, Skinner would say, if you want them to ever do this again, then just give in to them. One time. Otherwise, you simply ignore it. Language is one of our oldest tools, and silence often cuts to the very core. Modern gaming is in itself a gamification of the mind. Trophies for digital achievements. With all that confetti and balloon drop to go with it, the brain tricks itself on how easy it is, and it plays right into our old brain and exploits it quite well. Random, but you know where you are. So, there's a specific type of catatonic schizophrenic that there's no sensory or motor contact with the world, like zero. Behaviorists worked with them in a hospital in the 50s, and this was the study. They set up a large dispensary, an apparatus, and they set it at the foot of one patient's bed. It was like a vending machine, and all you had to do was simply look at it. It needed to be sustained eye contact, but that was the bar. Then, over the next few days, you actually needed to make physical contact with it, with the machine. It could even be a toe, but it needed to be touched in order to give out something novel. Over the course of several months, these catatonic patients were able to achieve multiple levers. And here's the fun kicker here. Of the prizes that only contained a single item worth trading, trading would happen with patients in adjacent beds. In the end, everything really is a market. Some patients gained enough mobility to start working in the hospital cafeteria, to make change and to gather items. That's a gain from literally being catatonic. As a special ed teacher, I have nothing but respect for this study. I'm a big believer in medicine, but often we treat it like giving a diabetic insulin and saying they're finally cured. No, not at all. The symptoms have been removed, but we've still got underlying issues. That's not really the same as a cure. The difference, though, is a vital one. Not many psychologists made the cover of Time magazine, but old BF did. Here's a fun phrase he was fond of saying. No praise, no blame. At the core of what he's saying here is that no one is a hero or a coward. We're all molded into who we are by the environment. Thus, there's no moral ground for behavior at all. It's simply the result of a lifetime of reinforced behavior from that organism's perspective. Praise or condemnation is simply ego. Bullies are not born. They are yelled at, pushed, beaten, and belittled until they wear it as a mask of their own pain. It's easy to blame that person, but blame, if anywhere, goes to those that raised them, that control the environment. Anything can be taught. If you want behavior, then incentivize it. This is the very core of capitalism. How we feel about it may vary, but it's the engine of the world for a reason. Plus, it's a fun gamble on progress, and even if we lose, we go down with some of the best. Well, that brings us to the end of our regular scheduled programming. Thanks again for your time, and as always, get good rest. Remember to hydrate, consume something green if you can. We're all the byproducts of our environment, after all. Make good choices, and don't die. Gaming is gambling, in that the house usually wins in the end, and you don't actually own the game. Might end up owning you, though. In the most real of ways, we're merely clicking that lever and being unwilling to stop till our beak is ablaze. Game on. Or off.